So the first thing that we're going to need is a sewing machine. Just a basic home sewing machine. It should look pretty similar to something like this. These are the sewing machines that we have on campus that you can borrow. If you have something similar at home, you should be able to use that. Sometimes they look a little bit different in the way that they take the thread and the way that the bobbin is thread at the bottom, but just a basic straight stitch sewing machine, all of these fancy things over here, we don't need that. We really just need it to sew a very straight stitch. So something pretty simple will do you. As far as the rest of the materials, if you have one of these sewing machines that you're borrowing from us, you could get a sewing machine kit to go with it that you can purchase that has all the things that you're going to need to make that sewing machine be able to work. If you have your own sewing machine, you might have some of these things already, and I'll just go through the things that you definitely need so that you can make sure. Basically, you'll need a pack of bobbins or several bobbins. Bobbins look like this. They're sometimes metal, sometimes plastic. This is going to hold thread and go into the bottom of the machine. So if you have your own sewing machine, you've probably got some of these already that you know are going to fit. But classic number 66 or bobbins that fit for home sewing machines are going to be what you're going to want to buy. One will get you started, but if you have several, then you could have several colors of thread and you won't have to change it as often. So a bobbin is super important, and you're also going to need needles. So I recommend these Schmetz Universal Home Sewing Machine needles. As long as it says home sewing machine, so that it's going to go into that machine and you know it's going to fit into your machine. And hopefully it says universal. We're not looking for any type of special needle here, something that is going to be universal. So make sure it says that word. Also down here at the bottom, see this second number sort of at the end, like it says 80-12. That's the size of your needle. So we're looking for a size 12 or a size 14, or maybe a variety pack if you have one of those would be great, but a 12 or a 14 is going to be your basic, works all the time. That's like the basic needle that you're going to sew with all the time. Anything smaller is going to be for really delicate fabrics, anything larger for really heavy fabrics. So for right now, let's get a 12 or a 14. Another essential that you're going to need is some really good scissors. So I say you can get a good Fiskars or other quality brand. These are Gingers. These ones here are Mundials. They're both really good. Fiskars I also have just really sharp dressmaking shears. Fabric scissors. These are not going to be scissors you're going to use for paper or you're going to use for anything else. You will thank yourself by getting good scissors. These ones were $50. These ones I think were under 10, and they're still really good because I make sure I keep them really sharp and they have a nice sharp point at the end, and I don't use them on paper or anything else. So get yourself a nice pair of fabric scissors. Maybe you have one already, maybe you can borrow some, but you'll definitely thank yourself for the investment. The next thing that you'll need is a full-size seam ripper. So a seam ripper looks like this. It's so that you can go in and rip out the seam that you just sewed when you make a mistake. This is absolutely essential. You're going to use this quite a lot and be thankful that you have it. Very inexpensive, so go ahead and get one. You'll definitely need some hand sewing needles. So this is a pack. See, there's tons of needles in here, and there's even a machine or hand sewing needle threader in here if you have a hard time getting the thread through the tiny eye. This is great because you've got tons of sizes, a lot of variety. You can get a much smaller pack than this too, but get a pack. Don't get one hand sewing needle. Get like 10 to 20 hand sewing needles. They break, they're easy to lose. It's something that's good to have a lot of. The next thing that you're going to need is some thread. And so I've suggested Coats & Clark all-purpose thread in red, black, and white. So this is white, the color. This is going to be Coats & Clark. It's going to be all-purpose. Really make sure that it says that. Let me see if I can focus here. It should say all-purpose. It shouldn't say embroidery. It shouldn't say something specific and special. It should say all-purpose. It should be thin, easy to use, just like our needles. We want this to be pretty universal. We want it to be able to be used on multiple different fabrics. We don't want anything special that says something strange here. It should say all-purpose. And you want to get a good size spool, not a little baby spool like they give you in a hotel room kit in case you need to do a little mending. This one is 125 yards. It says right here you can go up to 300 yards and it would be a little bit bigger, about that big, and that would be perfect. You don't want to get something like this, though it seems like a better deal, and you'll say, oh look, that's a great deal on all this thread. These large spools don't work really well on home sewing machines, so I would suggest getting this size or a little bit bigger, which is what the home sewing machines are really meant to handle. This is for a larger industrial sewing machine. So go with this size, get 3 spools, red, black, and white, okay? All purpose, very important. You're also gonna wanna get a pack of pins. So these are satin pins. You can see if they say silk or pleating pins, similar. Just a really simple pin. They come in a pack, they come in a little box. This is not something also where you're gonna wanna get just 10, 20 pins. You want a bunch. You could also have the little balls on the end if you want. I find that these are going to be more universal, so this is what I suggest. And notice there are 400 pins in this tiny box. It's going to be all you'll ever need, but please don't short yourself. Don't just have a few pins. You're going to need hundreds of pins, so get yourself a good sized box that you can carry them in. Next we're going to have a flexible measuring tape. That's one of these measuring tapes that look like this. Maybe you've got one of these lying around the house already. They usually go to 60 inches. Flexible, you can wrap it around and take measurements. So that's going to be absolutely essential. And we're going to need a binder to hold all of our sewing samples. So I have my binder here that was actually mine from when I was in college. It's just a binder, could also be a 3-ring binder. This is like a flat kind of floppy binder, and inside there's going to be these plastic pages that you can actually insert your hand sewing and machine sewn samples into, just like I've done. It's going to look so neat. You're going to label them. It's going to look really pretty. So you're going to want to get some kind of binder. You probably have one. You might just need to pick up these plastic sheets. And I would say, again, just a regular 8.5 by 11 regular notebook size binder, and you're going to need 12 of the clear plastic sheets. So a pack of those should probably do you. You also are going to need some lightweight fusible interfacing. So that's what this stuff is. Sometimes it comes in a pack. Sometimes you can buy it by the yard. It often does come in some kind of special section at the fabric store. You can also order it online and it'll have instructions. But what it actually looks like is this. It's really, really thin, lightweight, almost has like a dryer sheet consistency. And then we're looking for lightweight, fusible interfacing. So what that means is this is actually going to go on the back of our fabric to stiffen it up a little bit, just to give it a little bit more structure. So this goes in like collars, it goes in cuffs, it might go in a place where you have a zipper, anything like that where you want to give your fabric more support. And you can kind of see it has all these little polka dots on it. So what that is on one side, it's actually this side because I can feel the polka dots on this side, it's an adhesive. So what's going to happen is we're going to iron this on to the back of our fabric, and these little polka dots are going to basically stick to the back of the fabric. So it's fusible. You can fuse it on with heat. That's why it's called that. So you want to make sure you've gotten lightweight, not something thick. It's really thin, really lightweight, and fusible interfacing. And you're going to need 1 yard of that. It's usually sold by the yard, or again, this is a kind of packaged bit. I'm not even sure how much comes in here. Let me see if it says, oh, this says, look, 3 yards. So if I bought this, I'd have enough for a really long time. Plenty and plenty. So you can look for a package, or you can just buy it by the yard at the fabric store. We're also gonna need some muslin. And so muslin is cotton fabric, looks like this if I'm playing with it up close. What it is it's an unbleached cotton fabric. So see how you can kind of tell even compared to the sewing machine. This is a little bit darker. This is the color of cotton before we bleached it to make it bright white. So muslin is great for making samples, to make a inexpensive sample of something. Muslin is what we're going to use. So that's what we'll make our little hand samples with, this inexpensive, lightweight, kind of all-purpose fabric that mimics other fabrics really well. You can see it's woven, sort of like if you look really closely, kind of like a basket. We've got one set of yarns going this way, one set of yarns going that way. Doesn't really have a lot of stretch if I pull it in one of those directions. Does have some stretch if I pull it on the bias. We'll talk about that later. But so this is muslin. It looks like this. It should feel similar to this. It shouldn't be super, super thick and heavy. It shouldn't be really fine. It should almost feel like gauzy. See how I can kind of see through this to the other side. We don't want to get so fine that we can't see through it. And it should be inexpensive. This, if you get it from the fabric store, should be $2 a yard. It should be an inexpensive fabric. If you see it for like $10 a yard, that's the wrong stuff. You want the cheap $2 a yard or $3 a yard, inexpensive, lightweight, unbleached, 100% cotton muslin. It's going to come in different widths. Maybe a 45-inch of a width is going to be fine. You see it at the fabric store and it's in what's called a bolt. I'm showing you here a bolt of fabric. So it's fabric wrapped around this piece of cardboard, and on the end it's got information so that you can purchase it. See, so you can see this was $1.99. It's got a price on it, and that means it's $1.99 per yard. You take this up to the fabric store counter and they ask you how many yards you want, and they unroll it and they would give you that many yards. You're going to want to buy 5 yards. This is going to do all your projects for this whole semester. It's going to do your samples, and it's also going to do the garments that you make. So 5 yards. This is, let's see, we can see right here, it says the width. This is 36 inches. So if you could get 45 inches would be great, and 5 yards of that. 36 inches we could probably also make do, but basically you're kind of losing 10 inches. So see if you can find 45. If it gets down to like 25 inches, you'll definitely probably need to buy extra. But so just look on the side here to see the width, and then you could look here to see the price. So other things that would be suggested to really help you out is a zipper foot. So this is what it looks like. I'm going to show you what a regular foot looks like. Basically, the sewing machine takes this little guy. Let me show you our sewing machine. The sewing machine has a presser foot that's going to go right up here, and that's what's going to hold the fabric in place as you're sewing. So this is just a standard presser foot. Looks like this. And this is a zipper presser foot. It has a different look to it. Basically, it allows the needle to get really close to the edge there so that you can sew a zipper on with ease. This isn't absolutely essential, but it'll make your life so much easier and is pretty inexpensive. So I definitely suggest you get it. Zipper foot. Another thing that we didn't actually go over because it should come on your machine is the bobbin case. This is the case that holds this bobbin. This will be full of thread. This will go inside there. We'll talk more about that when we get to the sewing machines, but make sure your sewing machine has this. If it doesn't have this inside of it, you're going to need to purchase it. Again, we've got some time until we get to the sewing machines, but just something to be on the lookout for. That is a bobbin case that goes with the bobbin. It holds it together. So another thing that would be helpful for you to have is some kind of bin to keep everything in. You've probably seen things like this that maybe your grandmother has that holds sewing supplies inside. That's really handy. You can also buy a tackle box for like $2 from Walmart. Just some kind of bin or box, an art bin, something like that, that holds all your supplies together. It'll make your life also really easy. Some inexpensive paper scissors, just really cheapy, whatever regular scissors you would use to cut paper is going to be good to have. A suggestion would be to have some thread snips. They might look like this. See, it's just a fast, quick, easy way to snip little bits of threads. They might be something like this. These are more embroidery snips. These are going to be suggested if you've got some of these lying around. It's just a little easier sometimes than having the whole giant pair of scissors in the way. So thread snips would be good. A tracing wheel would be a handy thing to have. You can use this along with waxed tracing paper. Comes in a package that looks like this, but it looks, actually the paper is this. It's just a thin paper with a wax on it. I could trace on top of this onto my fabric, and it would put a little dotted line for me to follow if I needed to mark something on my fabric. And then it's easy to just rub away afterwards because it's wax. So that's optional. You can get a tracing wheel and wax tracing paper. You can also get a marking pencil, kind of something like this, a pack of marking pencil. It's similar to a colored pencil, but it's something that you could mark on your fabric, and then it's meant to wash away or rub away when you're done. Another thing I use is Taylor's chalk. This is just a piece of waxy chalk that's sort of got a fine point, and I can mark on my fabric and then wipe it away when I'm done. These things are not essential. I don't always use them, but it's nice to have, especially if you're struggling at first to be sewing in the right place. Nice to have these marking tools. A clear plastic drafting ruler is something that I use all the time. It's possible to get around it in this course, but it's something you will need later. This is mine. It's red, so let me try to show you. It is clear, completely clear. I can see through it. It's exactly 2 inches wide and 18 inches long. And these squares that are really prevalent are each 1 inch. When we go to make markings, this is essential, and it just makes my life so easy. I can place it on top of fabric, and I can easily see where my 1/2 inch, my 1 inch, and so forth markings are, and then I can draw right on top or make marks from it. Joanne sells a blue one like this, so it looks a little bit different, but it's the same. 2 inches times 18 inches long, completely clear. No other ruler will work, I promise you. Get the right one and you'll be thankful. What's nice about this ruler is the markings start at the corner. This is the beginning of my inch, that's the end of my inch. A lot of other rulers, you've actually got a little lip over here, it throws you off and you can't see through them, so it's not as easy to make markings. I promise you, this is the ruler you want. We can get away with not having it maybe for this class, but if you can find it, just buy it because you'll definitely need it later for any other projects. It's super handy. And then you want to have some pencils, so you could have regular pencils. I like mechanical pencils and erasers. It just makes my life easier when I'm drawing anything out. I have a really heavy hand. Sometimes it's really easy to draw really hard with this pencil, and it's hard to erase. So a fine point mechanical pencil with a heavy lead, like a number 0.9 lead, is going to be a lot easier for me. So those are all the materials that we're going to need. Oh, I did skip some. Let's see. Also, don't forget, we will need 3 all-purpose nylon zippers. So an all-purpose zipper looks like this. It has the traditional zipper pull that we are always used to seeing. It doesn't have anything different here. It usually has a hole in it like that. It's a regular looking zipper. We probably wear these every single day. And notice that this is nylon. It's not metal. It's plastic, really easy to sew through, really easy to cut, really easy to handle, and this is 7 inches long. So make sure you get 7 inches, maybe 9 inches if you want, but 7 inches is going to be perfect for our projects, and you need 3 of them. And then the one other thing that we need is bias binding. So this actually usually comes in a small package. It's about this big, but this is just a little piece of it. And so this is a binding tape that we'll use to finish off edges. And if you can see, it's a little piece of fabric, very similar to our muslin, cotton fabric, but it's just been already folded for us a few times. So imagine if we were going to finish an edge of fabric, we could just place our fabric right into that fold and wrap it around and sew on top of it, and it would give us a really nice, pretty clean edge. So this is called bias binding, comes in lots of colors if you want. This is 1/2 inch double fold bias binding. Comes in a pack that's usually 3 yards, and it'll be in the same section as the zippers. And ask questions if you're confused, or again, you can Google it, and I'll include maybe a link to a photo of what that package looks like so that you can buy it. Okay, so that's going to be all the materials that you need, and your assignment is going to be to gather all the materials so that we're ready to begin next week. All right, thanks so much. Bye-bye.